Good evening. Would like to call to order this meeting of the Norfolk School Committee for Tuesday, November 5th, 2013 at 7:05 p.m. As we begin with all of our meetings, we'd like to read the mission statement. The Norfolk Public Schools offers a safe, joyful, and challenging learning environment that meets the needs of our diverse students. Through school, family, and community partnerships, we provide an education that inspires lifelong learners and cultivates caring and productive citizens of our ever-changing world. Roll call.
Jeff Chalmers.
Mark Flaherty.
Thomas Doyle.
Sean Dooley.
Ingrid Alardi.
And as we do with every meeting, we'd like to begin with public comment. If anyone has any public comment, please come up to the microphone over on the side and introduce yourself, and how you're affiliated with the school. Anything? Nothing? No? Kathy, you sure don't want to talk? No, okay. All right, so we'll just get right through this. Correspondence, we didn't have any correspondence. So I will move on to the chair report. MassQ conference. Jeff?
It was a wonderful conference down there. A lot of information about, especially about digital, which was great. I ended up attending 3 or 4 different sessions to it. Everything from iPad use to how they're going to be using technology in paperless in some of the different classrooms to implementation of social media. So some great opportunities down there to learn about. And I actually have a couple of people I'm working with up in the North Shore about how they're accessing and using Google in their school. So great follow-up.
Good.
Coats for Kids. Once again, Norfolk Public Schools will be doing Coats for Kids. It'll be dropped off at both schools. We'll work with the principals to determine where the best drop-off location is, and these are, it's not just for kids, it's for kids, teens, adults, anyone. Coats in good condition. They don't have to be perfect condition, but good condition. The Coats for Kids organization partners with Anton's Dry Cleaners, and so once they're all collected, we bring them over to Anton's, and they dry clean them, and then the Coats for Kids organization distributes them. We're partnering with the Norfolk Lions again this year. So additional drop-offs will be at the Norfolk Town Hall, at the town clerk's office, my office, as well as the, once the Lions do their Christmas trees, they'll have 24-hour drop-off facility there at the Christmas tree next to Dunkin' Donuts, where those are sold. Last year, I think we ended up with 427 or so. Which was phenomenal.
Wow.
We were by far the largest in the district, especially for a town our size. I mean, it's far. I know how we ranked in the Lions. Granted it's mixed with the schools, but I think the next largest group was around 100. So I mean it was a substantial. It was nice for the town to. I'm sure at some point it's going to become harder and harder as everyone has given up their coats, but. But as I say, I know we found 6 or 7 this weekend when we were cleaning out the attic. So hopefully everyone can keep that coming. And those are going to be now through the end of the year. Those will be available. And so I'll talk with Lisa and Linda about where to have the boxes or whatever set up. And I've ordered the flyers. This year, Coats for Kids is actually providing flyers. I haven't seen them yet, so I don't know if there's something that go home with the kids or we just put them up around the school. So as soon as they come in, exactly. So I said, give me anywhere from 20 to 1,000, depending on whether if it's something that can go home, give us a full 1,000. If not, it might be a big poster or something like that. So I'm like, just give us 20. So town meeting is 2 weeks from today. It's the fall town meeting. The warrant was posted today. Not much on the agenda. The main thing as far as the schools are concerned is we have a couple capital needs that were more emergency, funding, from the hot water tank and the fire alarm panel over at HOD to also the emergency staffing and adjusting the budget for our staffing because of the extra 43 kindergartners that came in. And so those 2 things will be on the budget, on the budget portion of the fall town meeting. So I think that's about it there. Veterans Day Assembly is this Thursday at 9:15 here at the Freeman Kennedy in the gym. and all are welcome, and it'll be probably about 45 minutes long, half hour to 45 minutes, and which is a really, really nice time. H. Olive Day also does one. Theirs is a little smaller. It's more just for the students, where they're, gather around the flag and, salute the flag and Pledge of Allegiance, and, discuss a little bit about what, how important veterans are to our town and our country. So anyone that wants to come, please come to that. And then my final thing is that we've been working on this, and we've been talking about this, I should say, for the past 4 years that I've been on the board, and we're finally doing this, is we're going to have a dinner with the chairs of all 4 school committees, Plainville, Rentham, Norfolk, and the chair of KP, and we're going to kind of all sit down and strategize and do some, just kind of throw around some ideas on how best to do a joint committee or a joint task force on how to coordinate all the education and all the curriculums and make sure we're all on the same page and moving forward, and how we can work together if there's areas that we can do shared services, whether it's, buying lettuce for the cafeteria, or pencils, or, sharing ideas on MCAS results and things along those lines. So I think this is a good, this is putting the chair of the KP school committee is heading this up, and she put this all together. So I'll know more once we figure out when we're having dinner, but it's, it's just going to be kind of an informal, let's see where everyone's coming from an agenda size standpoint. So hopefully this will be very beneficial. So that's all I have. How was that?
Good. Great. You want to jump on? Tonight, the first thing that we have on the agenda for under my report is the MCAS results, and Trish Kelly and Lisa Altham-Hickey are here to present that for you tonight. So I'll turn it over to them, let them share their information, and then we may want to move because they are going to use the PowerPoint, so I don't know if you want to sit in the audience or if you can see from where you are, but I'm going to shift. And I think the PowerPoint, you should have had a copy.
Everyone should have a PowerPoint.
I don't. You have 2 of them? Oh, thank you.
Okay, as Dr. Eladi stated, my name is Trish Kelly. I am a data specialist, and I'm with my colleague Lisa Altham-Hickey, the principal of Freeman, to present the spring MCAS results. I'd first like to go over what the scaled score range looks like, so everyone knows the numbers that we're looking at. Then I'm going to move on to looking at the 2013 spring scores. And
Trish,
yes.
can we maybe get a microphone over there? Because I doubt if that's picking that up. Yeah, we'll just move that one over there. Can we get that around?
The actual mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want the whole stand or the mic?
Bring the whole stand.
Trish, you're being so quiet.
Okay, then I'm going to move on to the 2013 spring scores, and then talk about the data trending over the 3-year period. And Lisa's going to talk about our open response data and our accountability data. Last year, when we were here, one of the things that we left you on was that a goal for this year was going to be to increase the scores in open response. And tonight in the slideshow presentation, we are happy to present that we have made that a goal that has been achieved. So performance for all Freeman Kennedy students in grades 3 to 6 consistently remains above the state average. And in some cases tonight, you'll see that we're like 25% above the state average. Overall, our students' performance in ELA, math, science, and technology has continued to meet a score of 93%. We take pride in the fact that our combined scores for proficient and advanced continues to be high. And on many of the slides, I'm going to point that out to you. As we move forward, we aim to move a greater percentage of our students who are in needs improvement to proficient. But quite frankly, we want to move those students that are in proficient to advanced.
They're still not picking you up. You have to talk right into the mic.
Maybe you should hold it, Tricia.
Higher, yeah, because they're not picking you up.
Hello?
So now we have to turn it on. Wow.
That's step one.
No one said we had to turn it on, just move it over.
Trish?
We should have our tech guy on it.
Sing a song.
Number 7 and the whole number 7?
That might help.
That'll line.
We need the little screen to come up with technical difficulties.
Closed captioning,
Where's
maybe?
Anna walking?
Are you filming Donna on the ground? Fix all this? I think that would be more entertaining for the viewers at home, having Donna crawl around.
Andrew, can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay,
there we
great.
go.
Ta-da!
Thank you, Donna. All righty then. Getting back to the presentation. The scaled score range. If someone is in the advanced range, they are scoring between 260 and 280. Proficient range would be a scale score of 240 to 258. Needs improvement, 220 to 238. And warning would be in the area of 200 to 218. Tonight we will present the ELA math and math scores from every grade level with the exception of grade 5. Grade 5 we're also going to include the science, technology, and engineering. We're going to begin with grade 3, and we're looking at the ELA screen, and ELA is English Language Arts. And I wanted to move away from the mic, but I don't think I should at this moment because you won't pick me up. So if you just look at the screen, the very first column there, it's going to tell you that where we are going down, it's advanced, proficient, needs improvement, and warning. And then the last box there is the number of students total. In the second box, it's going to tell you the number of students included in those ranges. In the third column, it's going to be the percentage of our school in that particular range. And the fourth one is going to be the state's range in the percentage that they got. Currently, this is the 4th grade class that is sitting here now. So this is the 3rd grade scores from last year. 89% of our 3rd graders last year scored in advanced and proficient in ELA. That's 104 students that were in that category. And if you look at the state only scored 57% in those same combined categories. In 3rd grade math for 2013, 81% of our students were in the advanced and proficient, which is 96 students out of 118 students that took the test. And what you have to remember here is that this is the first time that the 3rd graders are taking the MCAS. So 81% in math is in advanced and proficient is really nice to see. Moving on to 4th grade ELA, we have 81% in the combined advanced and proficient area, which equals out to be 113 students. And that's compared to 53% of the state. Now, historically, in grade 4, the scores tend to dip because of the rigor of the test. And the other thing is, in grade 4 in the ELA part, the students now have to write the long composition, which is really different for them. And they did great. Grade 4 math. Here we see 72% of the students are in the advanced and proficient, representing 101 students, which is not bad since last year, as you all know, we implemented a brand new math program called Go Math. So seeing 72% in advanced and proficient is nice. And in that Go Math program, specific content shifted. For example, fractions moved from grade 5 down to grade 4. So 72% of our children in that area for that year is nice to see. And still, if you look, we're still 20% higher of the state, even with that new program. We're looking at grade 5 ELA. We see the scores now increase to 85% of the students in advanced and proficient, representing 136 students out of 160 that took the test. And that 85% is very good. Again, it's 20% over the state recording at 65%. The grade 5 math, we have 159 students that took the grade 5 math. 126 of those students scored in advanced and proficient, whereas we met it at 80%, whereas the state was 61%. If you look at the wanting category here, and you will see that we are at 7% in the wanting category. But I want to put a little explanation around that. We have 11 students listed in that category. However, 4 of those students are outplaced, and we have no control over how or where or when they take the MCAS test. But those are included in our school percentage, because this year we were designated as a single school district. Yeah. So if we didn't have those 4 students calculated into our numbers, we would only be at a 4%. But it is the outplaced students that are in that area. Grade 5 is the only grade tested in science, technology, and engineering. And we are happy to say that 80% of our students in grade 5 are in the advanced and proficient area, which is 127 students out of 159. We're at 80%, and the state is at 51%. Here is the slide that Lisa and I really wanted to get to tonight. As we mentioned, one of our goals when we left you last year after this meeting was to focus on the open response questions and bring those scores up. And right now we can say that our 6th graders that graduated last spring, 93% of the 6th graders were in advanced and proficient. 127 students out of 137 students were in advanced and proficient. So we are quite pleased with that, and I know what you're thinking. How'd that happen? Well, we believe that some of the success was because the grade 6 teachers piloted a new program called Answer Key, and it shows them how to answer an open response question. Lisa is going to show you that program in just a minute. But over that 1-year period, we have seen some substantial growth, and we're pleased to show it to you tonight. And we're happy to say that grade 5 this year is piloting that program. So we hope to be back here next year with some goals to show you that will be achievable and highly achievable. Okay. Grade 6 math. 85% of our 6th graders last year also scored in advanced and proficient, compared to just 60% of the state. So 117 of our students out of 138 were in that advanced and proficient category. Looking here, so what we did here is we compared apples to apples. So this is our graduating class from last spring. So these are the students that are over at KP now from our school in grade 7. So we looked at the trend over a 4-year period. And you can see in grade 3 that in ELA, 84% of those students, in ELA scored advanced and proficient 84%. In grade 4, they were at 83%, which is still really good because if you remember what I said a few minutes ago, grade 4 is when it becomes more difficult, the rigor and the long composition, and you see only a 1% decrease there. Grade 5, we dropped to 81%, and then our results after implementing that program, you can see it went from 81 to 93%, and that's the same group of students. And in math, if you look over the 4-year period, they went from 77, dropped to 64, went back up to 80, and then 85. And that's also with the new math program, the Go Math program. And now these are our current 6th graders. These are our kids that are here right now. And this is what they have looked like over the last 3 years. In ELA, we had 79% in advanced and proficient for grade 3, 81% for grade 4, 85% for grade 5. And in math, we went from 84 to 73, which is that dip there, and then we went back up to 80. So we're hoping next year between the ELA program and the Go Math program that we're going to see a substantial increase in those numbers when we report back. So just to recap what we've been doing since MCAS came out, the grade level meetings were held in late October, and teachers were presented with complete data packages for analysis. Together, the administration and the teachers met. We met in the library. We went over and analyzed and highlighted strands and standards of all MCAS questions. Anything that was 70 or below, we just broke apart, we looked at, and we tried to drill down to see what is the root cause, why is this so low? And what we did is we found that the common thread that each of us were observing and identified at all grade levels was the open response. So we're continuing to work on that. We saw that last year, we saw that this year. This year, we saw the results of piloting that program. So as I mentioned, we are going to pilot it in 5th grade and see what happens. Grade level teams will continue to work together monthly with the administration on how to best improve the weaknesses identified. Furthermore, we will continue to improve upon the strengths that the district displayed on the MCAS scores, and hopefully next year present an increase in the number of students in proficient and advanced. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Lisa, and she's going to explain to you about the program that we used in ELA this year.
Thank you, Trish. Everybody has 2 packets along with your PowerPoint presentation that I handed out this evening. One is titled ELA Reading Comprehension, and this is a reading selection from the Grade 6 2013 MCAS. They release half of their questions, and they also release some of the literature that goes along with that. So the title of this is called Exploring the Titanic. And I just wanted you to have a sense of what the students actually have to read. But specifically, we talked about tonight an area that we focused on, that we noticed that there was areas for us to improve upon, was the open response questions. So last year, I attended a conference which was called Keys to Literacy, Open Response, Extended Response, which is put on by Joan Sedita. And I brought a grade 6 teacher with me because I always feel that the grade level teachers are the ones that implement the program, so I want to get their feedback. So after that conference that we went to, I went with Sarah Logan, who's a 6th grade teacher. She felt that this program actually had a lot of fidelity to it and that it would be a good program for us to teach. So we decided that we were going to pilot this to see if it worked just with 6th grade. So we did professional development together in January last year, and then we implemented that program fully just in 6th grade with all the 6 teachers. And we were happy to see after 1 year's results that we actually have increased those open extended response questions. So what I'd like you to do is you actually turn to the second page of the reading selection. So they would have to read this selection back and front in 6th grade. And an open response question, which is on page 62 at the top, it says, based on the selection, describe the narrative's feelings about the search for and the discovery of the sunken Titanic. Support your answers with important details from the selection. And this is exactly what the students get. They get blank with lines, and then they have to formulate the answer. So when we went to this conference, which was the Keys to Literacy Open Extended Response, what they had for us was they had a mnemonic called ANSWER, which is a systematic sequential way for students to actually answer an open response problem and break it down into easy steps that they can remember. Because for all of us, looking at a blank piece of paper and saying, I need to go back into the text and find evidence can be daunting for some students. So the answer mnemonic, as you can see on the screen, A stands for analyze the question, N says to note plan, S says to skim, read, and select, W says to write the response, and ER means end by revising. So what the teachers did was they explicitly taught each letter on this mnemonic in detail, months at a time. So they practiced it, they embedded it in their brains, and what they call it a 2-column notes, which I'll show you in a few slides on how each student can set this up. So one of the things, if you go back to the question that I just talked about with everybody, and you look at that question and you ask the students, what are 2 important words in that question that they're asking that stand out to you? So if you look at that, they're asking you actually to describe the narrative's feelings. So now you need to go back into the text and you have to actually figure out what were the narrative's feelings. And if this question doesn't say to the students, find 3 ways, they automatically know that they have to find 3 feelings in the text to help support their answer. So I'm going to move on and show you some of the ways that we taught the students this. And I'm going to go back to this actually slide. So this is the note planning stage. So what we taught the kids is that they're going to draw 2-column notes any single time that they see this blank piece of paper here. So automatically the first thing they do is they read that question, they find the 2 words, they restate the question, and on here where it says main ideas, they're going to write feeling number 1, feeling number 2, and feeling number 3. Now they know that they need to go find 3 things that are about feelings in the text. So now they're going to go find evidence in the text, and they're going to actually write, you know what, basically blurbs about feeling number 1. Feeling number 2, and feeling number 3. Now they've set up their whole question. So now they need to actually go back and they actually have to formulate this into complete sentences into a paragraph form. They need to go back and revise it. And this was good for all students. And the teachers, when they were walking around actually monitoring the assessment, saw all 6th graders using this because they had a plan in their head. What was the plan? The plan was that, you know what, I'm going to take a T-chart, I'm going to write the T-chart, I'm going to find the words that are important, and they set up a plan. So I'm going to go back to the slide before. And what I also provided for you tonight, which I think is important, is the open response questions are scored by people at the state, okay? And they're scored on a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1, and a 0. And what I provided for you tonight was exemplars from the state on good students and how they scored. So on your first page that you have is a student that received a 4. So they received a perfect score. If you flip to the next page after that, it's a student that received, on the back side of it, I double-sided it, a 3, somebody that received a 2, somebody that received a 1, and there are students that receive a 0. And they may receive a 0 is because that they actually did write something, but it has nothing to do with the topic of what they were asked to write about. So if you actually just look at number 4, I'm just going to read a little bit of it because it actually goes back to that note planning stage that I talked about. How they restated the question, based on the nonfiction selection Exploring the Titanic by Robert Ballard, the narrator had many different feelings about the search and the discovery of the sunken Titanic. So that student automatically picked up that there was feelings that he needed to go, or she needed to go find. One feeling was he was bored and tired. Why was he bored and tired? And they had to go find that evidence. And then if you go on, you'll see that that person found another feeling and another feeling. And that's exactly what we did with the answer key for students, is we embedded in their minds that plan of how you set up and answer an extended response or open response question. So I thought it was important for you to know, like, you know what, all the work that we did. And now we'll share the great results of what we have from 6th grade. So what I did was I broke down, they had 4 open response questions, 6th grade did. And so that means that they had 4 separate pieces of literature to read. And that could be fiction, nonfiction, it could be poetry, it could be a play, all different types of things. That's different genres for the students. So on question number 1, and this is where we found our weaknesses. We were scoring more on 1s and 2s than we were in 3s and 4s. So the first question, which you guys have in front of you, number 6, 93% of our students scored 3s and 4s. On question number 13, 80% scored 3s and 4s. On question number 24, 80% again scored 3s and 4s. And on question number 35 wasn't the best that we had done, but that actually goes to fatigue. This is one of the last questions on this test, and by this point in time, the kids get tired and they start to actually, you know, get drained by actually doing so much as expected of them. But this is huge compared to what we've had in the past. Yep, I'm going to go to this and I'll go back again. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay, this is accountability data for our school. And we're broken up into subgroups for accountability data. It's all students, high need students, and students with disabilities. And what I did was I showed you a chart from 2012 to 2013 on how we did. All students, we received 95% last year. This year we received 100%. So we've closed that gap by 5%. High need students received 68%. In 2013, we got a 74%. So we closed that gap by 6%. In students with disabilities, we had 69%, and then went to 74% and closed that gap by 5%. Right now, the school's progress on we've narrowed this proficiency gap tremendously, and we're really excited about that. And we're on target in each subcategory. You need to have a 75% or higher in each subcategory in order for us to be a level 1 school. So as you can see, in 2013, we're 1% away and that we closed that gap in order for us to be a level 1 school.
So the students with disabilities and high needs,
They're
in
very
a district this small, they're one and the same.
They are one and the same,
for the
Sean.
most part, right?
They are. It's pretty much they mirror each other, those two things, yeah. So, but I think for us, now,
I'll just clarify.
Sure.
The high needs subgroup would also include students that are low-income students.
Okay.
That might be, and so we have a couple that are.
So that's the reason 2012 had 69%, yeah.
From 68% to 69%.
Right.
There are a couple of students that are unique to each group.
Okay, and is that just socioeconomic, or is it also race, or are there?
The high needs subgroup includes any group that has been historically disadvantaged. So special education, students with low income, race is included in that
Okay.
as well. But for our population, they're pretty much, there's great overlap between the two
Right.
groups. The thing that's distinct primarily is students on low income.
Low income, okay.
so we're really excited about this data that we've seen and how we've narrowed that gap from last year to this year and how close we are. So I think that we're very much on target, and I think some of that actually helped in regards to these two categories, high needs and students with disabilities in 6th grade. Those students really liked the answer key mnemonic that we showed them, and those kids used it, which we saw was really helpful. So the other thing that we talked about as well was that this year, we trained all of our 5th grade teachers at our October Professional Development Day. Sarah and I trained the teachers on the answer key. So 5th grade will be implementing that with fidelity the entire school year as well. And now, because of the Common Core, this open response can be used across all curriculum areas. It's not just for ELA. So it can be used in science, it can be used in social studies, it can be used in math, and that's what we like about it. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'm slowly going to bring it down to 4th grade and 3rd grade, but I'm really going to have to tier that back a little bit in regards to that, and it's more looking at vocabulary for 3rd and 4th grade and how I can actually make this process a little bit simpler. So I'll be talking to those grade levels too. We won't implement it fully like we are with 5th and 6th grade, but again, it's something that we saw some positive results with. Our final thoughts? Teamwork divides the task and multiplies the success. And we feel that it's certainly teamwork that made this happen this year, and we're very proud as a school district of our results. And I would like to thank our teachers, actually. They're the ones that do all the hard work of implementing all of this curriculum, and we just help them look at the data. So thank you to all of our teachers in HOD and Freeman Kennedy, because, you know, it's all of us together implementing the fidelity of curriculum and working together to get them where they need to be today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Lisa or Trish?
Good job.
Any questions on the MCAS results? We're all set?
Well, just-
Again, Mark, did you have a
Just
question?
real quick, refresh my memory, because I probably asked the question before, but I forget. With the needs improvement and the, what was it, needs improvement and warning, what happens with the kids in those categories?
Well, classroom teachers get individual students' results as well and take a look at what kinds of questions they missed, what areas they might need reteaching, remediation in, and work with individual students and special education staff to help those students close some of the gaps and master skills that they may have been missing. So we work individually, and we also look at then trend data that really helps us assess better our curriculum and programs. But plans are developed for students. Students that are receive a warning score do get improvement plans put in place.
Okay.
The questions? Again, we are continuing to focus on improving student writing. As Lisa said, the 5th and 6th grade are implementing the answer keys. And again, that's just a general approach to helping kids think critically about what a question's asking them and to better plan their response so that it's more complete and comprehensive. And we also are working on developing the writing curriculum this year for all subject areas, and the ELA Curriculum Committee is continuing to work on that. So we're very pleased to see, you know, the gains that were made over the course of the last year. Any other MCAS items? Okay, great. I had a bunch of other things today, so we can jump around. I wanted to update the committee on the strategic planning process. I presented you with the proposed goals, I believe at the September meeting, so that you saw the district goals and you voted and approved the, oh no, I guess that was in June, I'm sorry, and you voted to approve them. I shared that out with all staff at the opening meeting, and we have now put together a strategic planning committee. We had our first meeting a couple of days ago, and the committee has 11 members, a broad representation. We have teachers, we have one of the building substitutes on that. We have Representative Roxanne's on it from HR. We have administrators. We have paraprofessionals. And what we're doing is we're taking each of the long-range goals and are developing the action plan for what we need to do and what we need to put in place as a district for us to realize the goals that we've set out, looking out 3 to 5 years. And then once we develop the action plan and all the steps, we're really looking at sequencing those so that the initiatives are manageable, that they can be properly supported with the resources the district has in terms of financial resources, as well as staff development and training. We are still on track, and I hope to have a full, complete strategic plan draft to share with the committee in January. We have completed the action plan for the assessment goal, and we are working on the curriculum goal now. So that's moving forward. Fees update in your packet. I wanted to just keep the committee informed as we passed a new policy last year regarding fees. We were going to monitor to see whether that was having a positive benefit in our ability to collect and keep the budget current. So Pam and Donna put together an update for you. We are really happy with the results, primarily in terms of the one-time fee collection. So transportation, we currently only have $740 left for the entire district in uncollected bus fees, which is a huge difference from last year where we were chasing bus fees from 2 years ago. So the one-time fees, the new policy.
So do we have an updated
I'm
one?
confused by the number. I see 1672 on here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that Pam gave me. You had 1670, from the time the packet went out Wednesday, we collected additional fees.
Oh, okay.
So,
Messing around.
so you had
Wasn't this last year?
1672.40.
Wasn't last year's numbers like 20,000?
Yes, we were
Oh, yeah,
collecting.
across the board.
No,
Wow.
It was more in tuitions
Right.
last year, but we had
Yeah, it was like
7 or
70,000.
8,000 of bus
Wow.
fees that we were still
What a
collecting.
Great
That's on
job.
it.
That's
You cracking
amazing.
legs out there now?
Holy smoke.
We are.
740.
We're enforcing the policy. We're letting people know that there's a termination date for fee programs if they don't continue. So it went from 1672.40, which was in your packet, we're down to 740 now for transportation. Advanced band, we went from 800, we're down to $86. So that was great.
Corporal
The
punishment.
tuitions haven't changed dramatically. Preschool, we're 420 past due in balances, 360 for kindergarten, and 2,400 for SAC. So SAC is the program that we have the greatest past due balance and the most people impacted, but we're continuing to, again, send out reminder letters, notify parents that their continued participation in the program can be at risk after 60 days. And we are seeing some positive results with that policy implementation.
I'd like to point out that, Pam, 3 weeks ago, these numbers were substantially higher, especially on the kindergarten and the pre-K tuition.
Yes.
And so, as I say, they've done, Donna, Pam, everyone has done a phenomenal job, because we were at 10,000, right? 3 weeks ago, so
Wow.
it went from 10,000 to 800 in 2 weeks.
I mean, that's amazing. Is there any way we can lease out those services to other companies and make some money on that? Because that's amazing.
It is amazing, and it's really been, it's been really positive, having the bus fee online and doing that earlier this year, having the band payment due at the beginning of the program, except for fourth grade. Those changes made a huge difference. But also, Donna and Pam have worked incredibly hard to make sure that we're sending letters out, that we're following up with phone calls. So there is a lot of time involved, but I think overall, we're seeing really nice. I mean, we were last year almost $80,000 in overdue fees between tuitions, band, and everything. This year, we're down to, on my updated one, $4,000. So that's a big, big difference. Okay, the other thing that we talked about was kindergarten. And we talked about moving the registration timeline for kindergarten up to January in order to help us better plan budget-wise for the number of classrooms we need to run, the number of sessions. And at the last meeting, we talked about how many districts at registration require a deposit, a non-refundable deposit, in order to guarantee a slot in the full-day program. And we had some discussion as a group about whether or not that was a practice that we wanted to implement. We agreed, I think, to go ahead with moving the registration up to January, but we left the question about whether we were going to collect a deposit up for discussion. And the committee had asked me to get some information about what other districts do with regards to this. So Pam actually sent an email out to the secretary's listserv and got feedback from a number of different districts. Most districts do collect a non-refundable deposit, whether it's at the time of registration or they set a deadline, either April 1st or May 1st. The deposits range. The highest is Westboro. They require an $850 deposit at the time of registration. And most, Foxborough is $500 non-refundable deposit by April. Most other districts do an $100 to $250, deposit registration.
Yeah, Foxborough says it's refundable.
How do they do 850? Because you can't hold that level of fee, because we're capped at 1 month's fee that we can hold prior to the end of fiscal year, right?
I'd have to follow up with Westboro. What the Department of Ed every year, as part of the kindergarten grant, has new regulations. They may not be recipients of the kindergarten
okay.
grant, in which case they can
Oh, they
do
can do
whatever
whatever
they
they want.
want.
Okay.
But because we get the kindergarten funds, the department attaches regulations to that. So because we're recipients of the K grant, we can only charge 1 month's deposit, 1 month's tuition prior to the first day of school. So
Right.
my guess would be Westboro is not receiving federal funding for that, or state funding. So I think my recommendation to the committee would be to consider going ahead with the January registration and setting a date, whether it may be closer to the end of the year, April 1st or May 1st, to collect a deposit. I think you could keep it to $100 non-refundable deposit. The concern I know of the committee was collecting too much money and parents having to pay a fee too far in advance. And the concern of the district was that a lot of people would go forward and hold a slot in full-day K and then pull out over the summer because of, childcare needs or other financial things, which really impacts our ability to properly plan and staff.
When do we need to have the planning and staffing done by?
We would be hiring, the budget would be complete, and our budget hopefully would be approved at the town meeting in May, so we would have to have our recommendations for staffing prior to that. But the bigger issue is that you can always reduce staff. If we budgeted for 5 classrooms and it looks like we only need 4, we don't have to hire that extra position, and hiring happens over the summer. So we may have it may involve shifting, we may have a retirement that we choose not to fill because we know we don't need it. So I would say by May, we really have to have a pretty good count of who's planning to attend the full-day kindergarten. And again, it makes a big difference, because if you have 90 students and 25 are going to half-day programming, I only need 1 teacher for those, that's 2 sessions. Whereas if they're all choosing full-day, that's an additional classroom. So, I would suggest the committee consider an $100 non-refundable deposit by May 1st or something
I
like
would say
that.
by probably the middle of April.
I was going to say, I would agree with Mark from the standpoint, maybe April 1st, from the standpoint of, May 1st, town meeting's May 1st. So, if there's any adjustment that we need to be doing,
We wouldn't be able
because
to-
we'd have to go to advisory. Just from
Right.
a discussion standpoint with advisory, I think it would be better if we came to them and said, listen, not only do we have an additional 40 students coming in this year, we know they're all coming because they all paid a non-refundable deposit, so we're pretty confident, as opposed to,
Yep.
we're guessing. Whereas if you do it, and I was going to say, I don't think April 1st for, I know you were the most concerned with the,
Kelly was as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember if this question came up last time. Do we have a sense of how many people signed up for kindergarten this year, then did not show?
This year was this year was unusual in the sense that we had a large enrollment for full-day K and nobody withdrew.
Okay.
In the past, it's been significantly different. You may have had 10 children that have changed over the course of the
Out
summer.
of how many?
out of 80.
Out of 8, well, no, the kindergarten numbers were in the 90s. So enough to impact a teaching position.
Because I know like 3 years ago, it was an anomaly the other way.
Right.
And it was like 20 that didn't show up.
Yeah.
So,
It's very much impacted by the economy and jobs, and, sometimes people plan full day, and, a parent loses a position and no longer needs that. So there are family changes that happen that can impact that, too.
Right. As I said, I'd like to point out that, anyone that's on, has particular needs from, financial hardship needs and things along those lines
There-
is exempted from this anyways, because they would qualify, they wouldn't be paying for, for the tuition, or they would get a reduced rate and things along those lines. So,
Right.
it's not, this is, not to penalize someone who can't afford the $100. If they can't afford the $100, then we can make, arrangements and exceptions. But I think what it does is, I think this is actually, kind of more beholden the people who can afford it, from the standpoint of it, they're thinking about whether I'm going to send my kid here or Blessed Sacrament or, some other private program. And, until I decide exactly what I do, if there's, I might as well just
I guess
throw
I
my
could see
name
if that
in.
was actually happening, but that certainly did not happen this year. I'd be
It did
curious
not
about
happen
that.
this year.
Like 2 years ago.
Yes, there have been
We're
issues
talking
in-
almost 90%. You still had 90% of the people show up. So I guess that's sort of my first concern, is that we're seemingly addressing a problem that doesn't necessarily exist. I understand it's from planning purposes, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And I'm a little more, I guess, open-minded regarding something. I think you mentioned $100 is what you're talking about?
I'm talking just enough that we know that people are committed to holding that slot.
So, and 5 of 8 of these were refundable. You talking refundable or non-refundable?
Non-refundable.
That's one
That
of
would
those
be
big
up for the
breakdown of these.
committee's discussion. A lot of districts hold a non-refundable deposit just so that they can guarantee that people are choosing that slot, and they charge it as an administrative fee if people withdraw. I'm open to either. I mean, really, we're just looking for people to commit, rather than to register for full day and think, I'm going to wait and see how the summer goes and make a decision, which could impact, not just classroom teachers, but assistants. If you only have 13 kids in a half day, you might not need an assistant in that classroom. So, for budget planning, it does make a difference.
But, I mean, that very well could happen with a $75 or $100 deposit. Someone could still make decisions, like, hey, whatever, $75, $100, I'm still going to do whatever. You're still left with the same decision-making process you'd have to make whether or not there was a deposit or not. But, I mean, I know it doesn't.
Except I think the deposit pushes people to really think about their decision and rather
Yeah.
than a no-cost, I can just enroll and, figure it out
One thing
after the fact.
I know what Sean said about people with hardships don't have to pay anyway, but maybe we can add in something like if they already put down the deposit and then between the time of school starting and the time they had left the deposit, if a hardship develops, then that deposit is refundable. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, it could be a
That's the
family puts
practice
down
now.
a
If
deposit.
people are paying tuition and then something happens, changes in terms of family income, they can notify our office, and then they bring in documentation of income, and we adjust the
Okay.
rate and would make those adjustments.
Ingrid, about how many of those situations do we have?
Families that are receiving assistance,
Well, it's such a scenario like his. Like, you
Where
have
people
someone,
come in
you
and
have
change
someone give a
after the fact?
deposit, something happens, we end up having to either reimburse them or help them out.
Well, we don't have a deposit now, so.
we don't have a deposit, but we have probably, I would say, we've probably worked with at least, I would say, Donna, at least 4 families who have either paid tuition that have come in for an adjusted tuition.
Out of
over
roughly
this-
on a yearly basis?
Yes, they have to notify us annually. We probably have more like 15 families that are receiving financial assistance.
Okay.
But families that have made an initial payment of the full amount that then provide us income documentation, probably 4 that we've readjusted or changed.
Out of how many?
We have in kindergarten,
No, that's and preschool, so probably 200
yeah, about 200
families.
Okay, so $100 seems more than reasonable, especially if you've got probably about 90% of the people who end up coming to the program. The majority of them are going to be using that money towards whatever.
And it's not,
We collect the first tuition payment in August. So if we had a $100 deposit in April due, then it would just be the balance of that first tuition
Yeah.
payment in
because
August.
it's not
So
a
it'd be
fee,
the
it's
other two.
it's just,
Yeah, it's just, it's a deposit on the
it's
tuition.
only a fee if you sign up and then don't
Don't show
go.
up.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, I was thinking mid-April, but
think
Sean
it's
said
fair.
beginning of April, I think.
Well, the only reason I think beginning of April is just so we could discuss it
Yeah,
in time at a school committee meeting or a budget meeting before we present it to our final proposal to the advisory board.
that
And it makes
sense.
perfect sense.
Mid-April.
Yeah.
We need
So-
to have time to do it, just like
Right.
you need time to plan.
Right.
So,
And we do have some opportunity over the summer because we have people go out on leaves or we have retirements that we can determine whether or not we're going to fill those positions based on what we're anticipating for enrollment. So, April, I think, is a good timeline to give us a good solid count that we can work with.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved as to an April 1st $100 non-refundable deposit?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Hold on, I'm still thinking of the discussion part.
So,
I know you just said that. I guess I'm still,
all right.
it's well known, I'm not
Okay,
the biggest fan of this, but I guess I'd like to get
w-
discussion in terms of the refundable or non-refundable portion of it. From dealing with other things, is there any benefit to one versus the other? I mean,
No, the problem with a refundable deposit is if they decide to change their mind and go somewhere else after the deadline, then they get their money back. We're still stuck with possibly extra staff that
I understand, but
we've already
I
contracted.
have to believe that's going to be a very, very small number. I think you largely accomplished your goal of the planning of it if you're taking this deposit up front from whatever the amount of people is. I mean, yeah, maybe 2 or 3 people end up going. I don't think that changes anything in terms of staffing, right, correct?
A couple of kids, probably not, but it really depends, on what the numbers look like for any given year. I think if you want to go with a refundable deposit, that's,
Wait a minute, in your opinion, what do you think makes more sense, non-refundable versus refundable? That's what I'm curious about.
Oh, I think it's better to go with a non-refundable deposit. Because I think if you say that it's a refundable deposit, then I'm not sure we get what we're hoping. I
That's
think you
what-
have
that's what
people
I'm trying
sign
to get at, is
up
that defeat the purpose
knowing,
of
well,
it.
I'm going to send a check in, but I can
Okay.
always get it back if I change my
Yeah.
mind. I think a non-refundable deposit pushes people to make a firm decision
Or-
in April, which allows us to plan and staff
How about
appropriately.
this? Maybe this would make you feel a little bit better, right? I know, because then we run into a problem like we discussed before, I think. If we say the deposit is due by April 1st, if the deposit's in earlier than that, they decide to pull out on April 1st,
I
then
think
it's
then it's best to go with a
refundable.
non-refundable.
But-
That also
Yeah.
gets
Yeah, I
complicated.
was gonna say, now you're tracking this.
Administrator, That's more work. So I
Right,
think
that's
you-
what-
But what I would
think,
say
yeah,
is
one
if we
day.
collect a $100 non-refundable deposit and a family puts a deposit down and then income situation changes and they notify us,
Then-
you know, if it's an income thing and they're now eligible for free kindergarten, we would obviously,
Refund.
in that circumstance, refund their deposit because they're not paying tuition. So I think if you're worried about people putting in a $100 deposit in and then having a financial hardship, we always consider financial hardship, you know, at any point.
That's
So-
done case by case, right?
Yeah, that's case by case. But I think as a universal, it should be a $100 non-refundable to hold
Okay, so that would be
hold the
your
slot. That would be my
recommendation.
recommendation.
No, this is my final question. I said, okay, it's fine.
Any further discussion?
I'm done now.
You're sure? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay, great. Parent Leaders Group, I just wanted to update the committee. I am continuing to have monthly meetings that are open meetings for the Parent Leaders Group. I have a core group that attends pretty regularly that I will send out emails to, but it's also on the web and will be in a letter that I send out, just inviting parents. It's an open meeting. I try to communicate any critical issues coming up from the school side. I shared out with the Parent Leaders Group at the last meeting the school district goals, updated them on the strategic planning process. The goal of the Parent Leader Forum is really to promote that two-way communication. So for parents also to have a way to share information about concerns or things that they think are going well in a much more informal setting. So it's really set up as an open dialogue. Our next meeting is November 18th, but I just wanted to share a few things that came up at the last Parent Leaders meeting that I thought were really positive. Parents reported pretty universally that they were really pleased with how welcoming both schools felt to families, and by the number of evening and community events that were held. They mentioned the carnival night, the bingo night at HOD, the third grade ice cream social here at Freeman Kennedy, and that the children were reporting that they really enjoyed coming to events where their teachers were scooping ice cream or giving out bingo cards, and you know, that was one of the areas that I think the parents at the meeting felt was a real strength of the district. So I wanted to recognize the teachers' efforts on behalf of creating that welcoming environment, and the TPA for all the evening things that they run, because it seems to be very well appreciated. A couple of concerns that were mentioned by the Parent Leaders Group. One was with regards to the district website and email lists, and there was a question raised about if a parent wants to email a teacher off of the website, they can only put in one address, and so they might be wanting to communicate with a group of people, but they have to send individual emails because there's no way on our website to kind of add additional teachers. So that was one question that was raised. I did talk to the technology group about that.
Like on sixth grade, you want to talk to the entire team?
Teacher, you might want to talk to the art teacher, the math teacher, you have your kid sick, or you want to communicate. The problem on the website front with that, I did talk to the tech team, is that it invites spam. If you have public email addresses and you can link, then outside vendors can just select everybody and send spam in. So that's why it's set up so that they're individual emails. But they were going to look at whether there was anything we can do to help people better navigate that and get emails out.
I was going to say, maybe it could just be, you know,
Send it
sixth
to
grade team or
Yeah, you send it
third
to a
grade team.
department.
Yeah, that's what they're going to look at. So the tech team is going to look at what are solutions. But to be able to just add the way the parents were looking for causes a problem because the website addresses are published. So anybody from outside marketing can just select everybody.
here's a-
So that's the reason.
here's
But
a
they're going to
question.
look at ways to expedite that
Now, the kids have multiple, they go from class to class, like.
in sixth
Okay.
grade.
What about having, I don't know, it would probably be a little bit more work, but it might work out better for the parent, especially if their kids are out sick, having an account set up where the parent can go in and be like, okay, this is my kid's group of teachers. They can click on that link with their kid's name and email all of their teachers if they want to that way. You know what I'm
I
saying?
can share that. Our tech team was looking at what are options, but I can certainly,
Because then it's one way to say, my kid's not there, can you give me any information I need, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes all out in one email.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might be more complicated than it sounds to me.
yeah, I don't, honestly, that's not my expertise. So they are taking a look at it, and we're going to come back with some recommendations. So, but I'll mention that. And the other thing that the parent leaders brought up that our math curriculum committee is working on were the extra math program we have that works on promoting kids' math fluency skills. They were looking for some options for students at the younger levels who might have weaknesses with keyboarding or fine motor, whether there were other programs that weren't timed or that might be a better fit for certain students. So the math curriculum committee is going to take a look and see if we can get some additional tools out for families for that. So,
That's a great idea, because I know with my kindergartner. you know,
Yep, some kids,
We basically have
it's
to do
hard.
it where, I do all right, call it out and I'll
type it in.
I'll key it in, yeah.
Yeah. So recognizing that some of the younger kids don't have that speed with the keyboard, we're going to look to see if there's other programs so that we could give families options. You have extra math, or these are some other recommended programs.
I still hunt and peck.
So I think that's one of the values,
We could
though,
use
of the
some extra
parent
math,
leaders.
too.
Cool.
The parent leaders group is I am getting some good feedback and input on things that we could take a look at, and we can look at, and I'm sharing it back with the leadership team or the relevant people so we can try to come up with some solutions.
And that's open, right?
It's an open, anybody can come.
Anyone else wants to go on to?
Yep, and anybody that comes regularly gives an email address, and we send reminders out to that group. But I also put it on the web, so, in any issue, we always have a few agenda items. If people, like I will update the committee next time on the issues that were raised at the last meeting, probably give a budget update, but then we always have an open other items at the end, so anybody can raise any issue that they want to bring up for discussion. So
How many
it's a
people
great
have been
forum.
showing up at the meetings?
It ranges. Usually, we had one meeting, one of the first meetings that we probably had 25, 30 people at. But I would say that consistently come, probably 8 to 10.
And how many meetings have you had?
We started last year in January and did one meeting a month. Yeah.
Can we accidentally tell them that the meeting is at the same time as ours, so?
So we get an
Bring
overlap.
in a crowd?
Yeah. Yeah, I am going to try to advertise it more, but, sometimes it's hard for parents at night. We tried to do it at 7 o'clock because that seems to be what works with the group that comes now. But, that can be a hard time, I know, for some families too, so we might play around with that a little bit. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was the phone replacement. In my contract right now, the district has provided a work phone. It's an iPhone that I use for, work-related issues. What I would like to do is transition that because I'm finding it really difficult to carry two phones all the time, and people have the wrong number, or they call and leave messages on one. It's not very efficient. We have a subline that is the only line in the district that was on an AT&T plan. Is that right? Or was that Verizon? Other way around. We had a subline that's on a Verizon plan. That phone died, needed to be replaced. So I turned my iPhone over to the subline so that they would have a phone and that everything would be on AT&T. Rather than having the district replace that phone, I would prefer to do a phone allowance. That's what we have for both the, for our tech director and for one of our tech assistants. So I wanted to put that to the committee to see if that was something that you would consider rather than going and buying a separate phone and having two phones again.
What's that, $50 a month?
50, yeah, a month.
So I think it's kind of.
It's less expensive for the district as well.
It seems like a no-brainer for us, but is there?
So you're looking for an allowance as far as the plan or as far as the phone?
A reimburse. I would rather not have the district give me a phone. I'd rather have a monthly phone allowance.
Towards her phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. I think it's cheaper for the district than buying another iPhone and a plan, and we had the need there. So,
Yeah.
You're not getting anything. No phone for you.
Strings and
if you really want me to, I'll
give you
carry
one of those
two.
crank
It's
phones.
not very efficient.
Yes. Is there, since it's in her contract, we actually have to do this as a motion. Is there a motion to amend her contract to replace the district-provided phone with a $50 per month phone allowance?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Do we know it's going to
Aye.
be cheaper? We know for a fact it's going to be
Well,
less
we
expensive.
pay like 120 now, so, yeah. so
All right.
I'm-
We do the math.
Just,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, we'll get you the Go Math program. You can key it
Yeah, we
in.
get that math program coming out.
Extra math program.
I was
So,
never
yeah.
good at math.
Yeah, so it's definitely cheaper.
Okay,
And we don't have to buy another phone for
yeah,
the
Subline.
subline.
okay.
Okay?
That works.
My own
That's all I
question.
had.
So moved.
All right. Nest did not, going on to committee reports, Nest did not meet this month, so they do not have a report. KP?
Where do you want to start? We got a couple good things. I understand that there's been a lot of collaboration between finance committees, Norfolk, the other towns, as well as KP, which has been great, because
Yep.
part of the promise was make sure that we have more collaboration.
Right.
Sounds like there's been a lot more.
And I'd like to address that, because I had something that you said last night. I had the Finance Committee Chair of KP came into my office very upset. She actually left work early today because she wanted to discuss this with me. She said that I said, she said that you said that I said,
Yep.
follow this,
Yep.
that I was very upset that they have broken their promises and they were not doing what they agreed to.
I'd like to, I was hoping this would be videotaped.
And this is videotaped.
No, last
Their
night.
meeting.
And that, you know, that I was very upset about this and everything like that. And I'm like, no. And as I said, fortunately, Mark was in the room as well, and he's like, no, that's not what we said at all. We said, have they done any collaboration like they said in the
Bingo.
spring?
The question, the
And
comment made was,
And Ingrid said,
We'd
well,
ask for greater
we asked for
transparency.
greater transparency, and please follow up on that.
the comment was basically last night was, I just want to make sure that there's been collaboration between the finance committees and as well as the committees. Yes, there has been. And the next question was, doesn't the finance committees talk to each other? I said, no. I'm asking a question. I want to make sure that it is being done. Yes. And the reason I'm asking the question is because there was a promise made from KP to Norfolk that it would be done.
Right.
That was it.
Right, and I explained to her, I'm like, all we asked was, Jeff, was, is this being done?
Yep.
He said he didn't know.
Yep.
And so we said,
Yeah.
that's, that was what we wanted to find out.
Yep.
But she was very adamant.
We were both baffled. So they're
She was
going,
very adamant that not only, that I didn't say that at all, that you said, I said, I was mad and I was angry
Nope.
that they flat out broke their promise.
Nope.
And their finance committee, and I'm like, and she walked in and said, started, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No.
And I asked
Who-
Mark, I'm like,
who-
do you,
Who was the woman?
oh, I was going to say, now that I'm on camera, I'm going to space.
Essentially, what I told you was verbatim what was discussed last night.
Oh, yeah, Wendy Robeson. I don't know why I'm spacing on her name. I know her daughter and her very well. Yeah, because Wendy's, friend of mine. She goes, I thought if you would have had a problem, you would have contacted me. And I'm like, Wendy, I would have. I have all your personal contacts and your emails and everything. If there was any issue at all. I'm
Now,
like, the
Wendy
only
was
thing we-
upset because I asked the question, and she said, aren't the finance committees talking to each other? I said, no, I'm asking the question to make sure that they are, because I'm not on the finance committee.
Right.
I don't know what discussions happened. So I'm asking the question as a follow-up to make sure from
And
Norfolk,
Stem from
that's
last
just
month's
happened.
meeting?
Yes.
No, this stems from what we talked about in last month's
That's what I
meeting.
meant.
Yeah.
And I think
Because-
a conversation came out, I remember, like, when we got to this point, it's
Yep.
like, hey, can we remind them as
Yep.
going
Yes.
back to the
Right.
finance committee, was it
And-
finance
Right.
committee last year or the?
Yeah,
And-
it
and
was
advi-
the Board of
finance-
Selectmen.
And it was Jim
And the
Lehan's-
finance.
Yes,
It was a
and the
joint meeting.
Finance
Yes.
Committee
Yep.
had
And
had
it was
asked
at
for.
joint meeting,
Yep.
Jim Lehan's point that we need to make sure we work together,
Yep.
and that was the
Yep.
only thing that was raised, like, just as a reminder, can we please
Yep.
make sure that
And the
happens?
point made from last,
And that
from
was it,
both you
right?
and Kelly, as well as Sean, was, Jeff, can you make sure to ask that question? So, at last night's meeting, I asked the question.
Yep. And she said she didn't use her name, but she said the chair, you said the chair said, and he's very upset and he's mad and that you're breaking your promises. And I'm like, I have no idea
No,
what
I
you're talking
definitely want to have a discussion with Wendy, because that was
Okay.
far from what,
asking Sean.
discussion verbatim is what I just said, which
If-
is essentially, I just want to ask a question,
If
and the
you-
question is, are the finance committees speaking to each other, and is there a collaboration between the boards, especially superintendents? Yes. And then the next comment was, aren't the finance committees talking to each other? And I said, I'm just asking the question
Right.
to make
Well,
sure,
because,
because
I
the
mean-
promise was made, and we just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
The school committee, we haven't talked to the finance committee,
Yep.
at this particular meeting. We don't have any, we present in front of the finance committee.
And I don't
That's
have
our
any
only-
discussion with the finance committee
that's-
at
that's our-
KP.
So I would really appreciate if you would contact Wendy and clarify?
Oh, I'm going to shoot an email saying, just want
I know it's
to
mad.
confirm, this is
Yeah,
what was said
because I
last
was gonna
night.
say,
This is going
we
on,
just said, hey,
that's
is this being done?
Yep.
You said you didn't know, so we're
Yep.
like, hey, remember we talked about this? And remember, you didn't even remember being at that meeting?
Yeah, we want to make
And we
sure
had to
that,
explain to you, and you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that now, where you were at.
Oh, that's right, so you couldn't get in your computer.
Right,
No,
exactly.
we're talking about a time that I literally was at 2 or 3 meetings a week,
No,
because
no,
this is all
oh, no, no,
budgets.
no,
Right,
no,
So to ask to even remember what had happened in one
No, no,
meeting?
no, it doesn't matter, but I mean, I was just like, so I was just, this was like at 5 till 6 tonight, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I have no, I mean, I would,
I was shocked too, because I was wondering if I was at the meeting when that was said.
Because Mark came up, he goes, all we asked was if it was being done, I think. And I'm like, yeah, that's all I remember.
Yep.
I don't remember it even being more than a
In fact, if I-
30-second
It could have been,
conversation.
it could be wrong, but I believe, might have been one other person, but I believe it was Wendy who made the comment of, well, don't the finance committees talk to each other? And I was like, no, that's the whole point. I don't speak to the finance committee.
Right.
I'm asking, just tell me, yes, we are, great, we're on the same page.
Right.
I was, told to ask that question, so I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, we've been doing this since that meeting, it was in May, and I mean, I felt bad because she was very upset with me, and I'm like, I do enough things wrong in, on a day-to-day basis that I can get my wife mad at me for. I don't need people to get mad at me for no reason.
Part of that rolls, Sean, from what had happened at the last year's meeting, at the budget meeting, when we had KP basically coming from the board, and you were very strong in your words to basically say, hey, listen, this is where we need to be. We can't be here anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
But, I mean-
backlash because of that as well.
I can't imagine there'd be backlash that I said, we need to have open transparency. I mean, that was the only thing that was said was, that the problem with this in the past is that we're finding out at the last minute. We're doing our whole budget process throughout this whole timeframe.
Yep.
And I stick with this from the standpoint of, we're doing our budget starting in October, and we work on it all year long, and then all of a sudden at the last minute,
Yep.
KP comes in and throws in their budget,
12%.
and, and they're asking for 12%, and all of a sudden now we have to, in order to help their budget, we have to be cutting our budget and things like that. If we knew that they needed 12% coming all along,
Sure.
we could look, at least adjust and at least know what we're, all right, we're probably going to have to cut because KP is going to need this, this, and this. All right, what's our, best case scenario and worst case scenarios? That was the only real discussion, and I think, Jim Lehan was more forceful from at that meeting, much more forceful than I was from the standpoint of, I was the one that brought up that we should be collaborating as a town, all 3 towns should be collaborating, and KP, should be doing what they are now doing. Whereas, I think the select board was much more angered, or, I don't know, anger is probably not the right word,
Yeah,
but
no,
they were
definitely, Jim
much-
wasn't
they-
angry. Jim was, he was very passionate about
they
what needs to get
They were
done.
very frustrated that this all came out of the blue.
Yep.
And again, for, numerous years in a row, so, because I have no, I have no problem with KP or the finance committee or anything like that. I think it's communication's the key, and we need to do collaboration, but,
Yep.
I think that was the whole purpose of creating this new joint, committee, and I know for a fact, because I talked to Mr. Lehan after when he came in my office, and he goes, nope, we're definitely doing it. He goes, Scott Bugby, one of our chairman of our board of selectmen, goes to every single one of their, KP's budget committees and their finance team and everything like that. And so, and Wendy, who's a Norfolk resident, chairs their budget. So,
Yep.
So Norfolk is very, very well represented. So, and Scott's been reporting back to, the selectmen every month, so.
Good, so we have a definitive answer that the answer is yes. Love that.
Yeah, exactly.
good. Policies?
Okay, the policy, we worked on a couple of incidental changes that will be presented officially next meeting. One of them is the fees for the Norfolk nonprofit groups using, reserving the gym space at both the Freeman Kennedy as well as the HOD school. We had discussed a $10 fee, $10 non-refundable deposit, Here we go again. I can see this.
And that was to address the issue we discussed last time, that
Yeah.
we're the only group that doesn't charge a fee for gym rental for nonprofit for the basketball leagues. And the problem we were having is that a lot of groups will book gym space in places and then hold us as a backup because there's no fee attached to it.
And
So
then
they'll
they don't
book
use us.
a whole bunch of nights at the gym in case they need it. And then our local rec department's having trouble getting access to the gym because it's being booked by. So we were looking to be competitive with what King Philip and other area
So they charge
charge.
$10?
They do, they charge you a room fee. I'm going to double
not-
check.
Well-
It sounds like some of them may have gone up, so I'm going to double
It
check
sounds
to make
low.
it competitive. Yeah.
See, I told you.
Glenn said he thought it was 20.
$10?
They charged us a lot more than $10
Yeah,
when
so
we
we're
played
going to
there.
check again. It was originally
running
10, but it
correct,
might have gone
but
up,
yeah.
so we'll
No,
make
but when we
ours
played at KP,
competitive.
Yeah, it was a
we
lot-
always-
it was a lot more.
Yeah.
We paid, it was like $50 a night, I think.
50?
Because
Really?
there was a number of us playing, so it was
Yep.
$5 per person, and then
And we
there was a
averaged
certain
10.
break-even point you had. Once you got over that,
Right.
we kept that in for other weeks, but there was a certain amount we had to turn over every week to KP for.
Right.
So we were going to
Pretty
look,
pricey.
Yeah.
we discussed at policy, we're going to get the current rates from King Philip and from Rentham to see what they're holding, and then we'll make our room rental
Actually,
competitive.
I had mentioned $50, and I was told that might be a little too high.
I think that's-
You know?
I was going to say, because when she said, 10, I'm like, that's,
That seems ridiculously low.
yeah. I mean,
We'll make it competitive.
put it this
with
way,
what the
I was going to say,
other areas are
the other
charging.
thing it's probably worth getting in is Four Kicks as well, because they also rent out all their gym space as well, so that might be
They're
another.
exorbitant. They're a lot of money.
Oh, are they?
I mean, they have nice facilities. and
Oh, okay.
But
Oh,
you're
just,
paying for what
just,
you're getting for it, but it's pretty
just for
pricey.
just so we can have that as a,
Yep.
all right,
Comparative.
everyone's 20, Four Kicks
That'll
is
be your
40.
catalog price.
Yeah, so.
Yep,
Yeah.
we'll get
And
that
that way we at
information
least
for
have it.
next week.
We also got an update on the anti-bullying laws in Massachusetts that we got to just amend a little bit. I guess we have to add staff and teachers and stuff like that, and prohibit them from bullying the kids. So,
And each other.
yeah.
No
Yeah.
bullying.
So, and then we're working on the consideration and criteria for approving school partners. So we're making some changes to that to make it more defined on who is eligible for partnership. And so we will have these available for readings and stuff and voting at the next month's school committee meeting.
Okay. Budget Subcommittee, Kelly's not here, but the first Budget Subcommittee meeting is immediately to follow executive session. So we will break for once this is done, we will break for executive session, but if anyone wants to come afterwards, we will then reconvene as a Budget Subcommittee. Technology Subcommittee, anything
I have
new?
nothing. I haven't heard back from Mike. Just need to hear back from him so we can schedule something.
He's working on scheduling the first technology meeting.
Okay. And Building Subcommittee, Thomas?
Our long national nightmare known as the playground is nearly completed seemingly. It is green,
It is green, that's the
despite
finished coat.
3,000 emails that indicated otherwise, and one completely condescending email that was directed to you, because apparently you couldn't figure out which playground project you were speaking of.
Or, yeah, where she was even in the town.
I'll give you credit for not
We've had,
responding to that.
yeah, we had some concerns, or I've had some concerns from the building committee
Yeah.
about the temperature conditions for the install of the final surface coat there.
And the subsurface.
And the subsurface coat. The material specs require a minimum of 40 degrees for storage of material and for install. And then it also requires a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of 40 degrees for curing. And it's not supposed to be installed in the rain. And they were putting the top coat in very cold weather when there was not, it didn't meet the minimum requirements. And
30s and raining.
it was in the 30s, and it was raining. I
And
know I did
hate to
have
ask it, their
some
answer
photos
was-
taken. I sent the email out expressing the concerns, putting the company on notice that we were concerned that they weren't following the specs. And the builder responded, maybe I had confused the two playground projects because
Like you
the
can't see
HOD
it from your
surfacing
window.
is going in. But the HOD surfacing that's going in is prefabricated rubber matting that don't have the same environmental conditions. So I clarified that in the email that no, it wasn't the HOD, it was the top coating going in here in the 30-degree rain that was of concern.
And so they've been put on notice, and we will test it and use an
Yeah.
attenuation, machine and device and everything like that. And, it's, you know, they have
We have-
sworn up and down that, nope, they've checked with the manufacturer, it's 100% correct, that's just for long-term storage, and it only, as long as it went down in 40 degrees, as long, you know, it cures mostly, and, you know, they
They
laid out-
claimed they were stopping work at noontime and allowing it to cure before the cold weather. That's just, it wasn't accurate. But I did get a quote from another company to come in and test attenuation. So for $500, we can have the attenuation tested to make sure it meets specs. We do have a 5-year product warranty and a 10-year workmanship warranty on that playground, too.
All right, great. So-
What's the lifespan of the surface anyway?
I think
30?
I think it's closer to 20.
Yeah, since I think
20
I
years?
remember it being 20.
Okay.
But as long as we get it tested, we're covered under the warranty. So
And you are-
I talked to Bill Beatrice today
Okay,
about that,
'cause you're
and he's
not
going to raise
there
that.
tomorrow. The other thing is,
Yeah.
we have a follow-up building subcommittee meeting tomorrow, but you're not going to be there,
I'm not
correct?
going to be there, but
Okay.
I got
And
the
they're aware of that
information
$500?
to Bill Beatrice
Okay.
and to Greg Cohen, and Mike Judici also has the information too, because I
Okay.
wasn't sure who here was going to be able to attend.
Because the concern on top of that was, you know, all right, you know, the attenuation works great, but, you know, this went down incorrectly. You know, 3 years from now, the subsurface starts crumbling
Yeah.
underneath. You won't know until it's way too late that, you know, that there's
it's
a
an
problem.
extremely expensive repair at that point.
And then, you know, and then there's the, you know, how do you dig it up and prove it and
Yeah.
things like that. And so I think that was very important for us to put them on notice that, you know, we've documented, we have pictures, we've complained about it
Good.
throughout the entire process.
Good.
And we're being charged extra for it, which is just, you know,
That's
my,
insane.
you know, that's the awesome part, is that they're, you know, they charge us extra because, you know, they had to wait, and then they waited even longer and did it. It's not like she was
That's
making up
the
these
con- that's
ideas.
my
It was coming off their
concern
website.
is,
It was
No,
flat out, this is what it has to be done. And they're
Yep.
like, nope, oh, no, it doesn't say, you know, they just randomly put this on their website, just random
Yeah.
numbers, and that's their argument.
Did we screenshot that?
Yeah, I gave them, and they have it. We printed
They
out the
have it,
product
yeah.
specs. They have all that information. Again, they were claiming that they were installing in the mornings when it was 50 degrees and stopping work by 11, allowing it to cure for the required 4 to 6 hours before the temperatures dropped. It just wasn't accurate. We had people out there putting the surfacing down. Today, it was 4 o'clock when they were still out there.
They've been installing all day. I have
Yeah,
pictures left.
all day, every day. The subsurfacing was put down in the rain. It rained for 3 consecutive days.
me a
My
break.
concern was whether it ever fully cured before the top coat went on. So
Yeah.
we put them on notice. I have all the documentation. I had Raphael go out and take pictures with a date stamp of the pouring rain while they were out there installing. So we have all the documentation.
But there's no,
We'll have it
And
tested.
that being said, it is one of the premier playground, you know, surfacing installers in New England.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Ann Proto said, you know, they have a phenomenal reputation and
Yeah.
things along those lines. So it's at least, we have that going for us. It's not just, you know, Joe Schmo just, you know, oh, I think I'm going to do this. This is
No,
my
it is a
first time doing it.
reputable
It's a
installer.
reputable company, so it's.
Just happened to hit the wrong guy at the wrong day? I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt on this
There
one.
was equipment delays in terms of the delivery of equipment, and I think they were getting pressure from the builders to
From the
complete
GC.
the project. So, I just want to make sure that the district's
Right.
interests are
And
protected.
Wrap this thing up at this point.
there's
Yeah.
no way to test now, though, to make sure the top.
Oh, no, we don't.
Yeah, we're gonna-
test it.
Well,
we can
no,
have
to make
the
sure the
test.
bottom coat cured properly and to do any of that.
It's-
At least check the attenuation.
Yeah, I was
Right,
gonna say
well, at least it gives
attenuation,
an
yeah.
idea of what's going on with it.
I mean, it's, you know, it's poured rubber, so it's, you know, I think it's one of those things, it's fine until it's not.
Yeah.
You know, once it starts to crumble or break down, I don't think, it's not like it was visibly,
Right. We do have the warranty on that. I just want to make sure that it meets the safety standards for attenuation and fall height and all of that. So we'll get that checked.
Can you let us,
Thomas, any more?
let us
any
know
more on the
about it
buildings?
No, you're not going to really be able to
once you
top
get that
playground talk,
report
so I
for the
think that's about
attenuation?
it.
Can you let us know?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I think the other thing is, you know, they're coming with their, you know, the revised numbers tomorrow night. for
Yes.
all the
Budget revisions,
All the
yeah.
budget
Yes, we should have
revisions.
the
so-
revised numbers. I don't know about the meeting minutes that it's supposed to be. I didn't see a response on
No,
that.
there wasn't a response.
But yeah, supposedly we'll have the up-to-date budget numbers.
They're not going to be right, but they will give
I
you
also-
some
We'll have
updated-
numbers.
They'll have numbers, they'll just be
Yeah.
random numbers.
I also got and passed on for the committee to review 3 quotes for fencing, because we talked about pulling the fencing, the remaining fencing out of the building project. So there's fencing along
Oh, right,
Boardman,
that's
but the fencing that's going to come along this side and around the bus loop to enclose that play area, I got the 3 quotes, and they'll be presented to
We
the
have those
committee.
tomorrow, too?
Okay,
Yep,
good.
yep, so we can move forward with that.
Substantially less,
They range from about 9,800 to 13,000.
and they were 20,000 before?
Yeah.
So
That's what
that's
we
a-
had, we had 20,000 set
Yeah.
aside.
Yeah,
for that.
so they're all under that.
so
The
that-
lowest one was about, I think
Yeah.
it was either Colonial or Norfolk Fence that had the low quote, which was about 9,800,
One
but
thing
we
I-
did get 3.
And a
One thing I
local
would
company,
like-
So even better.
One thing I think would be great, especially if it's Norfolk Fence, they're a local company.
Yeah, so is
Yeah.
Colonial.
So it's Colonial.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
next to Four Kicks.
Oh,
The one
okay.
right on 150.
I can't remember, to be honest, which was 11 and which was
I-
9, but
I-
one of those 2 companies.
I
And the
never heard
third
of
was from
Colonial.
Foxborough, and they were
Yeah, once
13.
before the-
I never heard of Colonial, so
That's the big fence company right across from the
Got
new
all the
medical
stuff out in
office
the
building.
yard.
I don't go that way that often.
No, you got more assignment. You got go math. Drive down 115.
And get Google Maps.
Can I get a typing class too?
Yes.
Maybe
So much we
English
can do
lessons?
for you.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Any new business?
Well, apparently all my homework that I'm getting.
Yes, exactly.
That's ongoing business.
Ongoing, exactly. School committee meeting minutes. Anyone have any revisions?
Nope.
I apologize, I left mine at home.
Just read through them.
Oh, thanks. I read it before. I didn't remember anything exciting. And you're going, which days are, while we're reading these, Jeff, which days are you going to MCAS this week? I mean, MCAS.
MASC.
MASC?
Yes, now you've got me taking
Yeah,
tests?
Exactly.
Welcome to the
Oh,
club.
Yeah,
seriously.
that's what, yeah, we don't want to even joke about that, but wouldn't it be funny? And here's the school committee's the scores in comparison to our 6th graders.
You don't want
That's
me
all we
taking that
need.
test.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay, and Kelly's going as well, so.
Yeah, we just don't know which day.
Kelly told me today he doesn't think he's going to be able to attend, so I have to follow up with him tomorrow.
Okay. Can anyone else attend any days?
Attend. What days?
Conference is Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah.
Saturday, too.
Good agenda Thursday.
Thursday's probably the best day.
Yeah, I'm going down halfway through the day tomorrow. I'll be down there around 2 o'clock for a panel discussion, so.
Okay.
If it was like a weekend thing, I could. I can't do it during the week.
You can go down on Saturday for the awards.
Exactly. Thomas, well, if you look at your schedule, if you can go down on Thursday, I think it would be great. I know I can't,
I
unfortunately.
can't. I mean, we got healthcare stuff and then a social security seminar, which is really exciting, but it's what we're doing, so.
So, all right, well, that's,
I can look at whether we can cancel any of
yeah, see if we can cancel it. If we can't cancel it, let's see if there's someone.
Raffle it off to somebody else.
Yeah, you can see if anybody else wants to join.
See another, maybe a KP school committee or Rentham or Plainville, and,
That'd be somebody who wanted to do it.
and/or, someone on the staff, that.
Yep.
It's not, the agenda, it's not, it really is school. It's
Really,
it's
yeah.
really superintendent, I mean, maybe administration from
Yep.
standpoint, Lisa or Kelly, or,
Yeah, I'll take a look at what's on the agenda and see if there's anyone else.
because Thursday's by far the best day, I mean.
Yeah.
so, okay. All right, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Approved. And
All in
next school
favor?
committee meeting, we have down for December 10th.
Okay.
Mom's birthday, back at home. Apparently
Happy
not.
birthday. Early.
Okay. That's election day, so I will not be able to be here that's the primary day. Well, we have to make sure the schools. we have to
So
make
don't do
schools-
the 10th?
schools- So we need the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and the of December for the gym.
There's no
Do a
primary,
little-
though, is there?
There's still a primary, even though there's no one on the primary?
That
Be-
makes sense.
That's
Because-
efficient.
Yep, that's, wait. So basically, the 9th, starting at noon, yep, And then the 11th, they usually have it down pretty early in the morning, but the 10th all day will be here.
So the 9th is set up starting at noon time.
Yeah.
10th is all day.
And 11th, however fast they can close it down in the morning, break it in. And they usually start pretty early, so. And then January 6th, 7th, and 8th, same thing for the actual election.
All right,
So I'm sorry, when is the school meeting then? Is it not the 10th now?
So, yeah, well, I can't do it on the, I mean, I'll have to be, and, so,
So do we want to do it?
All right, so
17th?
so we could do
We're going to
it,
move it to,
or we could do it the 11th, Wednesday
Wednesday.
11th. I can do it then, or I can do the 17th.
17th.
yes, it's 17th.
17th.
17th work for you? Okay.
Is that okay with Kelly? Good, he said yes. He's not here, he's stuck.
Okay, I would like to move to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with union personnel, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in an open public meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and not to reconvene in open session, but we will reconvene with the budget subcommittee after.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Jeff Chalmers?
Mark Flaherty?
Oh, no, Jeff Chalmers, what?
Say
Aye.
yes.
Yes.
Mark Flaherty, yes.
Thomas Doyle, yes.
Sean Dooley, yes. Okay. Thank you very much.